Ready to go, everybody? Ready to go? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council of the City. It is Tuesday, May the 17th, 2022. I'll call this meeting to order now at 6:30 p.m. and call for a quorum check, please.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Here.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Here.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Here.
Councilmember Najarian.
Here.
Councilmember Shelby.
Here.
Councilmember Volle.
Here. Quorum is present, we shall proceed. The invocation this evening will be given by Mayor Pro Tem Neville, and I'll lead us in the pledges afterwards, so would everyone please stand.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, we come before you tonight first, and we say goodbye to two long-serving council members, Tom Maxwell for 12 years, Beverly Volle for 8 years. Each of whom served the people of Universal City with distinction, objectiveness, and fairness in their years on this council. They plan to continue working for the betterment of Universal City in the years ahead. We are privileged to have our Mayor, John Williams, continuing his leadership of our city for the next 2 years. Councilmember Paul Najarian, beginning his third term serving the citizens of our city. We will welcome to the council, after they take their oath of office, Stephen Buck and Phil Vaughan. Please give them both the wisdom and strength they will need to fulfill the responsibilities for which they were elected. Father, I call to mind tonight two prominent writers of yesteryear to help us all in these precarious times. British philosopher John Stuart Mill and the fourth president of our United States, James Madison. Mill wrote in his treatise on liberty, quote, "If all mankind minus one were of one opinion and only one person was of the contrary opinion, mankind would be no more justified in silencing that one person than he had if he had the powers would be justified in silencing mankind." End of quote. May we be all of like mind. And President James Madison, writing in the Federalist Papers, number 51, quote, "If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, no control of government would be necessary." End of quote. Let us freely admit that, as is written in Psalm 8, that we were made, quote, "a little less than an angel," that God gave us rule over the works of his hand. So let us promise that we will strenuously serve to the best of our ability each and every citizen of our great city. Father, let your arms embrace all those who have been struck down in horrendous fashion at the hands of men who rebel in the utterly false belief that they are both better and superior than anyone, thus taking from us those who do not conform to them because they are of a different color, race, or religion. Be with our men and women in the armed services as they continue to freely volunteer to safeguard our way of life and our sovereign liberty. Be with the people of Ukraine as they continue fighting so gallantly to preserve their homeland, free from tyranny in the face of destruction and the callous taking of life. Finally, we ask you to be with all of us as we strive to serve the citizens of our fair Universal City and to do your will. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Well, thank you everyone for coming this evening. It is a very special evening as we have to say goodbye to two of our stalwart members and welcome two of our new members this evening. So this is it's kind of a bittersweet moment, but it's also an exciting moment for everyone in Universal City. Normally we'd start out with the consent agenda this evening under tab number 8, and there are actually 4 items under that. Well, one of the individuals that signed up for citizens to be heard and wants to speak is planning on speaking on one of those items. So I'm going to break with tradition here a little bit and let Mr. Jim Vinci come up and speak about a particular item, and then we'll go to our consent agenda. Ritchie?
Honorable Mayor and council members, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I respectfully come before you because what I wanted to talk about before you looked at the codes again was to give it some concern, and I've sent all of you emails and I provided you with a hard copy. There's a lot of information there. I'm not going to say if you were able to read it in 2 weeks, God bless you. You know, the codes are 700 pages and there's 2,000 additional pages trying to explain what the 700 were and the changes and so forth. I tell you, to be honest with you, I gave up after a few hours. It's just very, very obtuse. But I know it's important and a lot of it I didn't understand. What I'm asking is that rather than rush into things, is to give it a little more time to be able to look at some of the different options that one has. One of the things that my colleague and I, we do consulting work, and found out that the Northern City Council, those cities have gotten together and they have actually, with a consortium, have gone through all the codes and say, you know, these are good, these are not so good, these are some amendments. And I don't know, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have codes, that they're very important, we should have them. I'm not smart enough to understand which ones need to be there, which ones need to be tailored to our particular geographical area. And I just wish, because it's so voluminous, that you all would give it an opportunity before you take a final vote. And I'm not saying vote no on codes, they're very important. I'm just asking that you take a little more time and not vote this evening to adopt the new ones until you have the time to research it out, whether it be to have an advisory council, as I gave you a couple of options, or whether it be to use something that ACOG may or may not have, as Mr. Goolsby had already asked that question. I don't know whether ACOG has it, but we do know that some cities have already gone through that and have looked at them and have tailored it. And I'm just asking that you take a little more time. I guess the only thing that I have, I urge you all, respectfully I urge you all, and I have no dog in the hunt. Well, I guess I do because I live here, but I don't specifically have a dog in the hunt about any of these codes. I'm just asking though, that because it's so voluminous, 700 pages of codes and 2,000 additional pages to explain it, is to give an opportunity to be able to look at that more closely and to look at what other communities and what other groups have done and how they deal with it. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I thank you very much for, and council members, thank you very much for allowing me to do this. And again, I ask you, just don't vote. Just ask that you kick the can down the road a little bit so that you'll get a little more information and a little more and see what people have done out there to tailor that to their specific areas. Obviously, it's things that pertain to Universal City are not going to pertain to New York City, nor is it going to pertain to the North City Council because of their climates and so forth. With that, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the accommodation there.
Thanks, Mr. Stevenson. Let's move on now then to our consent agenda. It's number tab A. All matters are listed in this agenda to be considered to be routine by City Council. You can read it up there. That can be enacted by one motion. There's no separate discussion. If discussion is desired on a particular item, then we can pull that from the, you let us know and I'll pull it from the consent agenda and we'll press on from there. So I'll leave that open now. This is our agenda. There are 4 items. One is to consider the minutes of the Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022 City Council meeting. B is discuss and consider Resolution 937. It's a resolution approving a project of the Universal City Economic Development Corporation. As authorized by Section 505-158 of the Texas Local Government Code, authorizing certain financial assistance to be used for targeted infrastructure located within the city of Universal City, Texas, and providing for an effective date. Second reading. C is discuss and consider Resolution 938. It's a resolution approving a project of the Universal City Economic Development Corporation. It's authorized by Section 505-18 of the Local Texas Government Code, authorizing certain financial assistance to be used for targeted infrastructure located within the city of Universal City, Texas, and providing an effective date. Second reading. Item D is present and discuss Ordinance 370-P-2022. It's an ordinance repealing ordinances 103-A-04, 324, 324-A, 405, 405-A-2020, 370-J-2013, 370-K-2014, 370-L-2015, 370-M-2015, 370-N-2015, 370-O-2016, codified under the city's Code of Ordinances, Part 4, Chapter 4 to 6, Articles 2 through 7, and amending Article 1 to adopt various international codes and dependencies relating to construction and inspection activities, repealing Part 3, Chapter 3-2, litter and weeds in its entirety, establishing penalties thereto, providing for severability in open meeting, and providing an effective date. Again, that's the second reading. So those are the 4 items before us. Anyone wish to pull one of these items, or just have a discussion on the item before we vote?
I'd like to pull D so we can talk about it.
Okay.
And then I'd motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, so motion to approve the consent agendas, item A, B, and C.
Second.
Go to second by Mr. Najarian. Any further discussion, anyone? Okay, so the call for the order, this is on items A, B, and C.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Councilmember Volle.
Okay, let's now open up then to item number D, which we've already discussed. So let's have discussion and we'll move from there. Mr. Goolsby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was told that basically I do have a lot of my conversations. We get a lot of things answered. We move a lot of things along without explaining that. Yeah, I still do it. So had a long conversation, but the one of the questions had been square footage. How do we determine residential square footage? If it's a commercial structure, it's obvious, it's exterior walls, and you're done. If it's a residential, there's a question as to if it's in the, does the garage count towards my square footage? Does my covered patio count? What counts and what doesn't? From what I understand is that the garage, as long as it's not an improved garage with air conditioning in it or heating in it, it does not count towards your square footage. If my exterior patio is not heated or cooled, it does not, but it is covered, it does not count towards your building square footage for residential properties. Those were kind of up in the air, a little bit of question marks. It went back and forth, and that's basically what the how we've kind of landed on that. There was a lot of other discussion about the ordinance on the section 110.1.1, prohibition of electrical service. Basically, this is when we have a fire or the fire department shows up at your house in an emergency situation, they can shut off the power. I mean, that's one of the first things that it does. But what we had done, what the code had done, was kind of clarified who could do it, and then so as far as the fire department is concerned, one of the questions was why are we giving this just blanket? So looked for solutions other than a 40-page document that makes appropriate. So the solution was where appropriate. If we can add where appropriate to the beginning of each of those paragraphs, essentially covers that it's not a blanket, it's only if it's appropriate. Yes, the fire marshal still determines what's appropriate, but that gives him teeth if somebody else misbehaves, or it gives the city manager teeth if somebody else misbehaves. So those were the two changes. Well, the clarification of the square footage was not a change, but the adding in where appropriate at the beginning of section 110.1.1, prohibition of electrical service, and then section 110.1.2, prohibition of gas service. Those are additions to what we had on the first reading. And so some of the questions were brought up as far as other jurisdictions reviewing this, other people reviewing this. That's what our code officials did. Our code officials went through this page by page. Everything that was changed, our code officials went through it. Everything that they touched, I went through. I asked questions of plumbers, I asked questions of engineers, I asked questions of other architects. So not only did they do it, I did it. I had other people that kind of helped answer some of my questions outside of them so that, again, a little check and balance. So when we look at it, I do feel confident in where we're headed. knowing that this body can still, if implemented, can still go ahead and make modifications as that day comes. The question was arisen that states that something in New York may not be appropriate for here. The bulk of that is true. Life safety is important everywhere. It doesn't matter where. When a massive issue happens, that life safety code gets changed. That's why you have to have panic devices on assembly spaces. Before you didn't. Then we had a big fire in a bar, and a lot of people died, and codes got changed. So they are tailored geographically for different things, snow loads, wind loads, everything. In that book, as you look through it, it has a map of the United States, of Texas, of down to the county. So it is tailored appropriately for our area based on the regulations to design that building or that structure. So that is already handled. So with all that being said, a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second with the change to add what Mr. Goolsby brought up. Okay. Any other discussion, anyone? Mr.
Yeah. Thank you. This is for Chief Cashman. I don't want to assume, I do mentally assume, but I want to be sure for this question's sake. With the change that Mr. Goolsby is recommending that we add in the verbiage of the code, saying where appropriate, are there written fire department SOPs taking where appropriate and applying that to fires, smells of smoke, gas leaks, so that you have a cross-reference to another document that is in your SOPs?
We don't currently have verbiage that would cover that, but we will be updating it after this so that we do have some direction for the guys to give them some examples of what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, first and foremost. But,
Okay.
yeah, we will be working on it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's my only question.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion from anybody? All right, Kristen, go for the vote, please.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Volle.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you for your input, Mr. Vincent. Appreciate it. And so we'll move on now to our next item, which is citizens to be heard. You can see it's time provided for citizens to address council on issues or concerns. It's informative. We won't be no discussion or action taken. And I ask you to limit your comments. There's one individual that has signed up this evening beside Mr. Vinci, and that's Mr. Richard Edwards. Mr. Edwards?
Richard Edwards, 209 Trudy Lane. Oligarchy, properly defined, is rule of the few over the many. Democracy, properly defined, is rule of the majority over the minority. Neither is suitable to a free and virtuous people. At its best, an oligarchy legislates for the greater good, for the best of the city, if you will. The theory being that if any legislation should trespass on the rights of an individual, the individual should take solace in that the harm they suffer is, after all, for the greater good. But if our rights are susceptible to the whims of government, then we don't really have rights. We have merely privileges. Democracy is no better. As Benjamin Franklin stated, democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what's for lunch. Democracy is majority rule, and majority rule is mob rule. It is gang justice. It brings out the worst in the powerful, and it crushes the weak. Democracy is tyranny in disguise. The U.S. Constitution, the Texas Constitution, and our own city charter ordain our form of government as a republic. Republic is defined as a government in which supreme power resides in the body of citizens entitled to vote and is exercised by elected officers and representatives responsible to them and governing according to law. In a functioning republic, the rights of the individual are inviolate and are not subject to any cause, even for the greater good. Among other things, these rights include privacy, private property, and the right to redress grievances, if need be, through charter amendments, initiatives, referendums, and recalls. It is my wish that the new council will better heed the will of the voters, but to do this, you must make the effort to go out amongst the many so that you may learn what's on their mind. Mr. Buck is already doing this. But if this is too much of a task for any of you, and it may well be, then hear those of us who gather at these council meetings as the voice of the voting majority. That said, I would like to heartily congratulate all the winners in our last election. Mayor John Williams, you are a distinguished gentleman and a proven ambassador. Congratulations. Mr. Najarian, congratulations to you. Stephen Buck, who I think ran the best campaign of all of us, congratulations. And Phil Vaughan, who I actually voted for, though it may have been detrimental. Your winning made this election a success for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Okay, did anyone else want to address council that didn't have the opportunity to fill out the form this evening? Yes, sir. Come on up. Give us your name and address for the record.
Yes, I'm Tom Dorks. I live at 1404 Civil Trail, and I'm late to the game here. As far as I came to the meeting last week, but last time it was Hornets nest of fireworks. I didn't realize it would be so crazy. But I just wanted to say that I think I have the oldest contracting license in Universal City, and I've done a lot of work here over the years. And I just want to encourage us to be slow to make more and more layers of regulations and things like that. And my thought was I'm all for this city. I love this city. And people who know me know that I'm really for this city. But I guess one thing I was going to do in the last meeting is I'm late to the game on this one here, but I just want to encourage us not to continue to make layers and layers, especially I think the fire codes, and I love my firemen, and they know I said this to them, but I think we make it, I interface with business people all the time, and we make it very, very difficult for business people. Because just to comply with some of the codes that we require can be very costly and can knock a lot of people out of the game, unless they're people that have deep pockets. And so my encouragement is just to, as we continue to make more layers and layers of codes, let's make sure that they're strategic and that they're important and they're necessary, because I deal with them all the time. I can't keep up with them. I have to use Jackman all the time because they change all the time. And so I just want to encourage us, it's just to, let's only do what's necessary out there for these codes, because I deal with the business people out there, and man, it's tough. And there's a lot of cost to these jobs just to comply with codes. And I know today, with electrical codes and stuff like that, and the way we build buildings are much, much safer. And my disagreement was really with the sprinkler systems, because that is a big cost factor when you deal with businesses. Yeah, so that's my 2 cents. But thank you very much, and I appreciate all you guys do to serve the city, and I love the city, so that's my 2 cents. And I do love these guys, even though I give them a hard time.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Anyone else? All right, let's move on then to our next item, which is in business. First one is tab number B. That is to consider resolution 939. It's a resolution canvassing the vote for May 7th, 2022 general election, declaring the candidates elected and requiring the oath of office. So, Ms. Kristen, you're up now.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so the general election was held on Saturday, May 7th, for the purpose of electing a mayor and 3 council members. The official canvas statement from Bear County was included in your agenda packet. However, the Guadalupe County official statement was not available at the time agenda packets went out, so it was placed on the dais for you this evening. However, the vote count did not change from what was presented in your resolution. The total amount of voters in this election for us was 1,410 voters, with 1,095 casting ballots during early voting and 315 casting ballots on election day. The results are as follows. Adam Salyer, 542 votes. John Williams, 825 votes for mayor. For city council members, Paul Najarian, 693 votes. Beverly Volle, 658 votes. Phil Vaughan, 675 votes. Stephen R. Buck, 756 votes. And Richard K. Edwards, 426 votes. With that being said, the following candidates are declared elected. For mayor, John Williams with 825 votes. For city council members, Stephen R. Buck with 756 votes. Paul Najarian with 693 votes. And Phil Vaughan for 675 votes. That requires you to-
That does require a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Maxwell, second by Shelby. Any discussion?
I'd like to make one,
Mr. Maxwell?
following my tradition of analyzing the votes, this year we had over 1,400 people actually show up for voting. That's a far cry from 12 years ago when we ended up with, we were lucky to get 300 or 400 at the most, and that was a big time. For city councilmen, there was over 1,000 votes not used. Every person who voted had the opportunity to cast 3 votes. That means that somebody come in, a lot of folks just voted for one person. You're doing the council a disservice by doing that. That is equivalent to 337 voters voting. That 1,019 misused votes. So what I used to tell folks is, if you're only going to use one vote, don't vote for me, because I want you to send me in with 2 people you want me to work with. So 1,000 people, only one or 2 people who vote, and they really do not want the team working together. And I just want to bring that out, just canvassing the votes, being real, and I'm ready to go for the motion. For the vote, I should say.
Okay. Any other? All right, so we'll call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Maxwell.
My last aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Volle.
My last aye.
Okay, before we go on to another note tab, we do have a presentation of a special award to one of our council members who's leaving. For all of you that were here at our last meeting, we had the chance to recognize Mr. Maxwell, and we're going to do that this evening with our other departing council member, Ms. Volle. And before we go down there, ma'am, let me talk a little bit, and then we'll go down and do our presentations. Okay. All right. I think a lot of you in the audience probably know Beverly and the service that she has given to our city for many, many years, not only as a council person, but as a volunteer. And the list can go on of the contributions that she's made to our city, but she has served us obviously on city council, and she has also been very active in where I really first got involved with her was the fact that she was in the Pentagon when 9/11 happened. And never forget it. None of us ever will, obviously. And I think what happened to our community is she instilled a newfound, I don't know how to describe it, but just a mission that we wanted to make sure we recognize 9/11 and the people involved, but the first responders and everyone else. So she started the first walk that we had, and we did a number of walks, and then we moved it to. She was involved totally with all that. In fact, I could show you. This is one of the shirts. Right? I have them all, but this is one of the shirts that we had to remember those brave souls who lost their lives in 9/11. And then she was also responsible for working on the whole project for having our 9/11 memorial, which is at North Park Red Horse Park. And if you have not had a chance to visit there, you need to. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. It's very meaningful. And I think you will find yourself very moved if you go to visit there. So if you've not been to that memorial, I strongly encourage and recommend that you do that. The list goes on. University City, the Police Academy Alumni Association is very active with that, very active with Homes for the Homeless, very active with the library. Where something has happened with volunteerism, Beverly was directly involved, whether she was a member of council or just a citizen of Universal City. And I have the utmost respect for her, and we wish her the best of successes in whatever she does, and we will not allow her to not volunteer. Okay, so having said that, Beverly, please join me down here, and I want to give you the special memento from the city and your council. Stand right here. Okay, get over here.
Stop looking at the M&Ms.
Oh, well, that's part of that. They're included. Okay. It's really hard to say goodbye to somebody and give them something that's meaningful. And let's hope we've been able to do that for Beverly. Again, she's not leaving us. She's going to stay a citizen of Universal City. We're thrilled to that. This is a small little token here. It says, thank you for 12 years of service to Universal City, Councilmember 2009-2011, and 2012 to 2022. So two times you served us. Besides the M&Ms, we wanted to give you this very special bowl. We think this is something that I know that you will cherish, and it was the dream and desire of our staff and council to give this to you. And you can chew on these. They also even have the Universal City logo on them. We show this logo off anytime we can. And they're mostly on the white ones, but you can see our UC logo on there. So it has been our distinct pleasure to serve with you, and it's been a pleasure. And also we have a montage of pictures over here. And after the council meeting, if you would like to, we can take this frame off. And if some people have already signed it, you can sign on that as well, so she can keep that as a keepsake of her time with the Universal City as an elected official. All right, Beverly, it's been a pleasure. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know she's not someone that likes to talk a lot, but I want her to say a couple of things because this is a momentous occasion for her, and we just want to show her how much we really appreciate the contribution she's made to our community. So Beverly?
I did prepare a little bit.
Okay.
I thought I'd go over here. Oh, well, I can do here with the microphone.
Whatever, yes.
Here, you want to address everybody? Here we
Yeah.
go. There you go. Okay.
Okay, is it on?
Yes.
That way. Can you hear me now?
There you go. Sounds like Verizon.
I incidentally, throughout my travels, have kind of made a collection of meaningful paperweights. So this is really, really more than you knew. Very appropriate. I love it. Okay. I first want to say that my son is here. Scott, he's hiding in the back. Thank you, Scott. And my niece, lovely redhead lady here. That's my niece, Terry Neston. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming out. I mostly enjoyed serving on council. I did move back to Universal City in 2005. I always say all roads lead to Universal City, and I think a lot of people know that here. As I expected, I found a clean, aesthetically appealing city. I learned about the committee working towards a new animal shelter and went to a meeting, liked the people, and joined in. And then from there on, I kind of got sucked into a little bit of everything. The 9/11 memorial and the walk, that was very meaningful too. And the reason behind it is I used to stay home on 9/11 and just kind of hide. And then I decided, you know, it's time to get out. I'm going to go to something. I couldn't find anything to go to. So I talked to the mayor and we set it up. Okay. I've watched the city become more beautiful and more active, and I'm proud to be a small part of that, along with many other people. I especially love the low-cost, family-friendly activities. I'm not shaking. Splash pad, improved parks, beautiful animal shelter and library, dog walk park, the Ina Blake dog park, excuse me. Snowfest, pumpkin patch, free movies in the park. And I hate to single anybody out, but Regina, you're awesome. And I know Kristen's involved in those 100% as well. I'm proud of a strong nonprofit supporting the city, and I'm amazed by the hardworking, brilliant city employees that I can't mention all of you. So you know I love you all. Okay. My city is a great place to live. I just ask that we keep moving forward, build it up, don't tear it down. And we need a woman on council and a woman as mayor. Anybody listening? Okay. I can now say what I want to say to anyone. Oh, I know. I didn't do that right. I can now say what I want to anyone I want and anywhere I want. And I got to tell you, that's a liberating feeling.
You want to say that again?
I can now say what I want to anyone I want, anywhere I want. Okay, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This means more than I can say, and I'm not going anywhere, so I'll see you around. Thank you.
As I said, we did get a chance to say special recognition to Mr. Maxwell at the last council meeting, but I'm not going to let him go away without anything this evening as well. So to our two departing council members, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve with you guys for 8, 9, 12 years. It's just a distinctive honor, and anybody that serves up here, you will know exactly what the feeling is like. And so I want to again commend Beverly and Tom for exemplary service to the Universal City, two of the most phenomenal volunteers that have been elected to council that I have ever known. They're at every event that we ever have, and they wear their shirts proudly to show everybody who they are and to represent our community. And it's been a pleasure to serve with you two guys. We're going to move on to the next step, and we're appreciating what you've all done. So Tom, let me say goodbye to you too, my friend. Okay. Everybody, let's say goodbye to our team. Okay, as is the custom when officials are newly elected, the very first action that we have to take, obviously, is the administering of the oath of office to the elected candidates. And so I would like to have Mr. Najarian, Mr. Vaughan, Mr. Buck join me down here, and Mr. Stubblefield, Judge Stubblefield will give us the oath, and we'll make it official. Okay, should we have the shortest to the tallest? Paul, you get to be here. Okay, this is not orchestrated, this is just the way we'll do it. Judge, you're on. Okay.
My privilege as a municipal judge of Universal City, and by the authority of the state of Texas, to administer these oaths. So if you'll repeat after me, we'll then sign the oath, and there's an additional conflict of interest statement that the city secretary keeps on file. And so if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me, I, stating your name,
I, Najarian,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of
the duties of the office of
and stating council member or mayor
Councilmember
of the state of Texas, and will to the best of my ability
of the state of Texas, and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state, so help me God.
and of this state, so help me God.
Congratulations. And there's a pin, and if you'll each have your signature.
Yeah, I can't find it. That was yours.
Nobody can read it.
Thank you.
Council members, come on back up. New members, welcome. A little different up here, guys, I'm telling you, it's a little different.
I need a taller chair. That's what I need.
Okay. Well, I think I speak on behalf of our newly elected council members and myself that it's a privilege to serve, and we appreciate the confidence that you've given to us by our citizens, and we promise to do the best darn job we possibly can for at least the next couple of years. And again, thanks for all your support. The next item we have officially this evening is to elect our Mayor Pro Tem to serve for a period of 1 year. This is an open nomination forum, and the council members make that nomination of who they would like to serve as the Mayor Pro Tem, who would serve in my absence at various functions, or meetings, sometimes at evening council meetings, and special meetings. So that's the next item on our agenda, so I'll open it up for anyone if they would like to make a nomination.
I nominate Mayor Pro Tem Neville for another term.
Okay, Mr. Najarian is nominated by Neville.
I'd like to put my name in for Mayor Pro Tem too.
Okay, Mr. Shelby. Any other nominations? Okay, so these are our two nominations that are Mr. Neville and Mr. Shelby. So again, this is not a formal, other than that you will be making your consensus to who you believe you would like to serve for the next year as our Mayor Pro Tem. So in the order that the nominations were made, those who would like to vote for Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Mr. Mayor, can we vote for both of them?
I've never heard of Mayor Pro Tems, but I suppose we could drop them. No, okay. Those in favor of Mr. Neville? One, two, three, four. Okay. And then Mr. Shelby?
Just to make it interesting.
All right. Mr. Neville, congratulations. Everyone. And so now we get down to our special business, which is tab number C this evening, and the first no tab we've had on the business. And that's a presentation by the San Antonio River Authority of Solitario wastewater wholesale rates. So, Ms. Turner, you introduce our guest this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. By way of introduction to Councilmember Vaughan and Councilmember Black. So as part of the budget cycle, we have presentations from some of the utility providers with 8 rate increases that they have going on in their agencies. And one of the reasons that we do that is we belong to 2 wastewater companies. We have San Antonio River Authority on one side of the city and the Cibolo Creek Municipal Authority on another side. Some people might say I'm a SARA customer or I'm a CCMA customer, and in fact they are neither. Universal City does blended rates, so they are in fact, wherever you live, you are a Universal City customer when it comes to wastewater rates. With that, Each agency, when they come, they usually present a 3 to 5 year budget increase that they're having to either cover debt service for construction projects that they've taken on behalf of all of the cities that they service, and as well as operations and maintenance within their organizations as well. So this evening, we have SARA. We're anticipating that the CCMA may be at a future council meeting. So I'm going to introduce Lehman, and there he is, he's behind me, and he's going to introduce himself even further, talk about SARA and the rate increases that we anticipate seeing for the next 5 years.
All right, thank you, Kim. So again, my name is Lehman Anderson with the San Antonio River Authority. I'm the utilities manager. I've been in this role now for about 10 months. Prior to that, I spent about 5 years with the San Antonio water system. So again, here tonight discussing our proposed rates for the Solid Trio wholesale wastewater system. So what that means, kind of in layman's terms, our Solid Trio wastewater treatment plant is located across the street from Judson Middle School near Schaefer Road in 1516. If you're not familiar, that's a picture that you see on our slide. It does look considerably different now because it is undergoing an expansion, which I'll hit on a little bit more later in the presentation. But our partner cities, including Universal City, Converse, and Live Oak, this is essentially where, if it's flowing to our side and not CCMA, this is where the wastewater is being treated at the Solid Trio wastewater treatment plant. So tonight, talking a little bit about how we calculate rates, our rate forecast, our proposed budget highlights for this year's fiscal year, and our capital improvement plan. Next slide, please. So in calculating our rates are decided by two factors, a variable factor and a fixed factor. Variable covers our operation and maintenance for our treatment plant and our collection system, and the fixed is what we contribute toward our capital renewal and replacement program, including any kind of major projects, facility replacements, vehicle replacements, things like that. And the biggest contributing factor, which I'm sure you know, is the winter average, is what we use to determine those rates. So that's 3 consecutive months within the time period of November to March. Typically, that's when your water usage would be the lowest. We use the water to determine your wastewater usage, since there is not a meter on your lateral flowing into the system, if that makes sense. So those tend to be, because of lower irrigation than in the summer months, your lowest usage. Next slide, please. So this was a slide that was presented last year for our fiscal year 22, detailing out the proposed rate increase for FY22, and as we have highlighted here, the proposed increase for FY23. Again, the fixed rate showing for fiscal year 23, $17.28, and the variable rate, $2.05. We use our constant of 5,000 gallons. Of course, that's going to be different depending upon your actual winter usage. But based upon those two assumptions, the monthly charge for 5,000 gallons a month would be $27.53, which we proposed this year as a 16.5% increase. Next slide. So for fiscal year 23, it's important to note that slide prior is the exact same thing that we do propose. So the presentation that we made at this time last year is the same proposal that we're sticking with this year. And I believe, as we've done this the last few years, it's proposed as double-digit rate increases for now, this being the third year of that cycle, to try to get us back in line with our operations and maintenance. And unfortunately, I don't think anyone anticipated what we're all going through right now over the last 12 months. We do have some proposals in here for FY24 and 25. Again, just estimates right now until we continue to see what the operations and maintenance of our system looks like over the next 12 to 24 months.
So just for the audience,
Yes,
sir. These numbers are not new to, except for our 2 new council members. These are numbers we actually saw last year as well. So they've been kind of giving us this potential over the last couple of years. So these numbers are no different than we saw last year.
So we felt it important to
Just
stay.
want to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Sure, I appreciate that. I think we felt it important for it to stay the course, not make any surprise adjustments, continue with what we said that we were going to do. And we've also, Ms. Turner and some other city managers from Converse and Live Oak, we all met in our Martinez 2 wastewater treatment plant several weeks ago. We briefed on this, talked, we've taken questions, made adjustments or considered those where we could. Next slide. Essentially the same chart that you just saw, just going back several more years and looking at a little bit of a different format. The 2753 is the wholesale rate in blue that we were talking about, is just showing represented here as the increases since fiscal year 2018. And this describes the wholesale rate proposed to each of those partner cities based upon the winter average numbers that we receive. So late February, early March, we will send out essentially a survey to all of our cities asking for those winter average numbers, again, between those periods of November to March. So you actually help us calculate some of that by giving us the winter average numbers. So Universal City there at the top. Last year, the winter average in gallons was 5,034. This year, it did look like it fell to 4,761. So the proposed charge of 2,704, slightly less than what we mentioned before, is roughly a 14.1% change. So the 16 that we just saw is again a blended over all those partner cities, but it is definitely determined by the winter average for your service area. Connection fees, so slightly different than any of the treatment revenue. These are specific connections that are new to our system, new commercial building, new homes, and this is a charge to that builder, developer, homeowner when they're building the new structure to tap into the system and then be able to pay for that service then they're going forward. So it has dropped quite a bit from fiscal year 21, not necessarily a huge concern for us right now. Those connection fees we're proposing to stay the same as they were in fiscal year 22, which is $3,250 per what we call an EDU or equivalent dwelling unit. Next slide. Just a real quick snapshot of our fiscal 23 operations budget. As you see, personnel expenses, operations expense, our capital outlay, and the transfers and support fee, showing our rough budget of about $5.5 million for our SARA Trio system. Again, SARA Trio is really up in this area. We call our SARA service area, which is more south of Interstate 10, Green Valley, that area. Next slide. So capital improvement plan, as I was mentioning, so this is a slightly, now looking back toward the west from our SARA Trio wastewater plant. So it looks a lot different than it did. This is probably aged by about 30 or 45 days. This is us installing 2 new clarifiers to add additional treatment capacity along our east side of our treatment plant. So that treatment plant will be going from the ability to process 5.83 million gallons a day to 7.33, and that will be taking that plant to full build out, full capacity. Also included in those capital improvement plans is our CMOM, Capacity Management Operations Maintenance Program. This is where we survey our entire collection system, meaning the mains and laterals that we have, making sure that those are in operable condition, that there's no roots, collapses, things like that that will keep us operable for however many years it is to come based on the useful life of that material. And then we will, once we go through our entire service system, we will determine if there are repairs needed. Emergencies, of course, will get dealt with then, but anything that may come over the next 1 to 5 years that we'll look at replacing. Roadway project, you can go to those. Roadway project isn't a huge deal. Roadway projects just refer to our coordination with TxDOT. We do have a project right now at 1516 in Schaefer where they're coming in and essentially widening the road. And if you've dealt with TxDOT, that basically means that you move your infrastructure and you cover it. So that is one, but we do anticipate that those will continue to increase in the future. So our next steps is we propose these rates to our board of directors on June 15th. That'll go for their approval. And if those are effective for our SARA Trio service area, for our wholesale system, those rates become effective on October 1st of this year. Questions for me?
Okay, let me open it up for questions. This is a presentation. There's no action on this tonight by anybody, but so it's our chance to ask some specific questions. Mr. Shelby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a couple questions. With the cost of goods and services going up substantially, thinking back to the double-digit increases that you mentioned to us last year and what we could expect, is that going to be enough to cover the increased costs?
Sure. We're on track now. Should be. I guess I have to emphasize the word should. We'll have to review this again as we go through fiscal year 23. But what we also did this year is we looked at a zero-based budget where we basically went to nothing, looked at all of the expenses we had coming in and the increases that we're seeing from CPS, our sludge processing, hauling, gas, of course, fuel. So we think that we're in a comfortable spot right now without knowing what else is to come.
So I guess it's your project that you're working on now is on budget. There's been no surprises in what you've started in already.
With the solid trio wastewater plant?
Yes.
No, there's been lots of surprises.
Okay.
But we're covering that. We're looking at additional funding sources, possibly issuing debt, and looking at ways to stair step some of those improvements so it's not everything all at once. So the way we feel right now is the adjustments that we've made over the last 3 years and any adjustments that we continue going forward will be enough to sustain that capital improvement and our maintenance.
So the hope is that we stay on target.
That is the hope, yes. That is the hope, that we stay on target and start dropping into only single-digit increases, if increases at all, yes.
Okay, so we'll talk again in a year and see where we're at.
I'm available.
Okay.
You can give me a shout halfway through if we need to do that.
And then I'm just going to ask this question for an educational purpose. I'm pretty sure I know the question, but I like to ask it anyways. The reason why we do fall averages is because most people turn their sprinkler systems off during that time period or water their grass less. And watered grass does not enter the wastewater system. So that's how when we water our grass, that doesn't go in the wastewater system. So that gives you a true picture of how much water we are using that goes into the wastewater system.
It does not go into the wastewater system unless there's some kind of correct thing going on that's allowing it to enter. But yes, and it's almost not, to your point, it's not a fair comparison in the summer when irrigation tends to go up, showing what's really happening inside those residences or commercial properties, right? So you have an increase in water usage, but it's not necessarily flowing into the collection system, which ends up at the treatment plant.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I could just add one other item for the council members. So SARA and all wastewater providers operate under certain rules, and one of them is a capacity issue, and I believe it's when they get near 85% capacity, they have to start planning for more capacity. And so they were at or near that several years ago, so they came to all of the cities and they said, look, we have to expand. We're going to be issuing debt to build more capacity from the 5.8 million to 7.6, I think you said. And so what happens as ratepayers, we are all paying for that added capacity, which is why we all of a sudden had double-digit increases. Before that, they were relatively small. So we're paying for the new capital improvements to the actual system that serves our area.
Yes, 75%. And when you do that for 3 months in a row, then Texas Commission on Environmental Quality requires you to be under design or under planning efforts at that point. So unfortunately, we have other plants that are at 250% capacity.
So, Mr. Anderson, so it sounds like we're needing to expand the plant, which is why we're embarking on this whole thing in the beginning. But isn't the connection fee designed to cover the expansion costs? And we have a new connection that adds to the system that's designed to be sort of an impact fee, right? That
Sure, yeah.
But
right.
We're having the ratepayers pay for that expansion. I'm just curious what your answer is.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference between an impact fee and a connection fee. Some cities do either or, some do both, depending upon the situation. Some are directed at operations maintenance, some are directed only at capital, like an impact fee would. We've consistently gone with just the connection fee, but as you can see, the connection fee revenue that we are receiving is not enough to support the expansion of those plants. So not enough new connections being given to allow us to get there, unless that connection fee was increased tenfold, potentially, which would be definitely a huge factor in terms of development in all of our areas. So that's a little bit, that kind of sticks us in a bad place there as well. So that's why we're also considering the debt aspect to make sure that that is there so that we do have those funds going forward to be able to expand or do additional improvements, and then looking at those sewer revenues that we are collecting to help us continue to make those debt service fees.
So am I hearing correctly that there's not a lot of new connections, it's just new flow that's causing the need for expansion? Or not enough?
There is new flow. Yes, there are connections, but I think what did we say in 22? That chart was somewhere around 600,000 in FY22. That's at least our forecast right now. So that's a far cry from the $32 million that the Solid Trio expansion is requiring right now, and that's with us not even being able to get, again, like I said, it was a shock to see that. We had to pull about $6 million away from the project just so we could get some things online, but again, to your point, yes, there's not enough development coming in at $600,000 a year to be able to support that big of a plant expansion. So there is increased flows. I'm sure I could probably get that for you in terms of what the winter averages have looked like over the past few years. If that helps, I think we could work on something like that.
I would just hope in the future that might be on the table, that we would have people creating the expansion contributing more towards the cost.
Yeah, we've, not necessarily in the Solid Trio system, but just for SARA-wide, which again includes Solid Trio and our SARA retail system, we are doing a Utilities Development Advisory Council. We're unfortunately not as advanced as SALSA is when they're dealing with this massive expansion that we have kind of on the east side of Bexar County. So this is a group of citizens, developers, city managers and council people as well from maybe some of the other cities. But we basically meet once a quarter. We talk about these proposed rates. We gave them the same presentation, maybe a little bit longer than what we're giving to you here tonight, to go through these things. And we also bring up impact fees, connection fees, just to kind of get a sense from all of those communities on what would be well received or not. Try to take those comments back, craft some of these things that we're bringing here to you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could we go back to the connection fee, impact fee slide? I couldn't quite make up those numbers well.
Sure.
Something about
I think it's this one here.
Yeah.
So
these connections would be completely new connections to the system. So not someone moving out, moving back into the same house.
So $32.50 per EDU.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a hefty chunk, because I know that at one time we've had projects that we had like essentially 30-something EDUs is what was calculated. Luckily, we were pulling out a lot, and then we had a big argument, and then it came down to 3. So it worked out. So
Yeah, and different between single-family residence and apartments or quadplexes, duplexes, things like that.
That was just what Councilmember Vaughan asked was a great question, so I was just kind of wanted to double check something. So this Saltrio, how do we say it, plant, who all does it serve? UC, Live Oak, and Converse?
Correct, yes.
And does it go beyond, how far out is that reach? Because as I was driving today out 1604 for a long time today, there's a lot of open land, there's a lot of new development. Is any of that expected to come that?
If we're thinking, is that New Seguin, kind of out towards Interstate 10, Shirts being there to your northeast, that would not flow to the Solid Trio wastewater plant. That would all flow, if we have the capacity, because every time we get presented with a request for service, we have to make sure that it meets our hydraulic models that we can service it, of course, right? So, but most of those, if not all of those right now, are all flowing to our Martinez 4 wastewater treatment plant, which is the one that I mentioned earlier, opened 2 years ago at 0.25 MGD, so definitely a baby compared to Solid Trio, and it was under design within months. We're under an expansion there from 0.25 to 2 MGD, and we fully expect that when we cut the ribbon, we'll be back under expansion again to support the growth that you're talking about. Some of that, depending upon how far you go out, may be serviced by Green Valley as well, but most of that is going to our SARA retail system. We have 3 plants, 15, 16, and 10 is our Martinez 2, Graytown Road is Martinez 4 that I mentioned, and Upper Martinez is Ben Zingelman and 15, 16.
Okay, because I think what I've kind of drawn a little bit of a connection. The idea that that UC, which is really not growing continuously, would continue to pay for new facilities for other areas would be frustrating for UC.
Understood. Yes. 2 complete different systems: Solid Trio system and the SARA wastewater system. Own budgets, own capital plans, completely separate.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Buck?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Anderson, thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. Actually, I have 2 questions. One, I imagine there are other costs that you are incurring that will be covered by this rate increase, not only the expansion. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. It covers our entire operations and maintenance budget, which is staffing, capital expenditures, debt service.
Fuel, personnel.
Correct. Everything that comes in with that, yes.
Okay, so it's not just about the expense.
That's correct.
Thank you. Then my second question, how much room do you actually have for continued expansion in the future? At what point might you run out of ability to expand?
Sure. Solid Trio does not have room to expand after this. This will take it to its complete build out based upon the parcel of land that is on right now. But our models show that this should go at least 2040, and I may be mistaken, it may be 2050 for the capacity of that plant. At that point, it would not be about expanding that plant. If the need was there, we would potentially have to look at building an entirely new plant.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Shelby.
I think you have one follow-up question. So, if I remember correctly, and please remind me, back when you came to us with the double-digit increases, and I apologize if I'm mixing you guys up with somebody else that also did this. This was to catch up because you guys were behind, because some of the budgeting plan to handle increases in M&O were not in place. So you needed to build your expansion as well as bring the numbers up necessary to continue to maintain and operate the existing plant. And I know Councilman Buck had asked a similar question, but I just wanted to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's correct. Although I wasn't here giving the presentation, that is what we looked at several years ago, is us lagging behind in terms of increasing those rates to maintain. And so we saw those 3 years of double-digit increases to get us back on track, as well as give us the support for regular operations and maintenance, but also for the treatment plant as well.
Okay, so we're feeling the pain, more pain now because we didn't feel as much pain back then.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, good. Again, this is just a presentation. We'll be seeing more of this as we go on. Your board is going to be working on it in June?
June 15th is that board meeting where they will go for a vote for our entire budget at that point. We will start our new fiscal year on July 1st.
And it'll come back to us then?
That's correct, yeah. We'll stay in contact and we'll let you know at that point exactly where we stand. But also, before I wrap up, if any of you ever get a chance to get out, want to get out of the office, you're welcome to come tour the Solid Trio plant. We've done that for some other entities as well. It's not as bad. It's just, I would like to think we do a pretty good job of making sure it's not.
I went to Judson, I remember what that place was.
Can he come with me and show this on the edge?
It's different to see the process at work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation. Very good. Okay, let's move on to tab number D then. Discuss and to consider resolution 940. It's a resolution authorizing a project which will facilitate the promotion and development of new or expanded commercial development, and which was approved by the Board of Directors of the Universal City Economic Development Corporation on May 12, 2022, and providing an effective date. This is our first reading, so I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, the Economic Development Corporation is tasked with identifying economic development projects that help bolster the economic activity of the city. And so Kristen, our Economic Development Director, who tonight is our Economic Development Director, our City Clerk, and our Elections Judge as well. She wore all of her hats tonight, and I think you did an event too, so there you go. She's going to talk about the project and the EDC discussion, and then also Mr. Warder, who is the owner of the property at 122 West Lindbergh, is present if you have any questions for him as well.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I was telling Ms. Turner, I feel like a broken record the last few times that I've come to you with each of these EDC projects, because they always start with the Aviation District Master Plan. But really it is the EDC who's been tasked with fulfilling the vision and the mission of the plan that you guys were presented back in, I think, October of 2020. So to speak a little bit on what we've done since this plan has come to fruition, Randy Lewinsman in the Public Works Department has worked on the Aviation Boulevard, which is a street project that I'm sure we've all driven on now that it's open happily. The EDC has participated in the Houston Drive project, which street actually abuts 122 West Lindbergh, which we'll talk about here shortly. That project is fulfilled. It added pedestrian sidewalks and parallel parking, the first parallel parking opportunity in Universal City. So that street project is done. At our last council meeting, you guys voted to ratify the EDC's decision to design and bid some Pat Booker Road improvements down in both ends of Pat Booker Road, really, but that will add some sidewalks and potential medians on Pat Booker Road to provide for the scenery that we're looking to provide for in that district. And then, of course, my favorite, the EDC has also participated with the kind of the catalyst for the east side of Pat Booker Road, which is a Gather Brewery, which I'm sure hopefully we've all ate at this point, but is doing fantastic and a huge success story for Universal City. With that being said, the EDC is hoping that this project will serve as the catalyst for the west side of Pat Booker Road. What you're looking at right now is the plans for the mobile food park that is looking to come at 122 West Lindbergh. Like Ms. Turner said, we have Russell McWhorter here. He is the owner of that property and is looking to develop this. What you see in the picture, the white building, is the current yellow house that sits on 122 West Lindbergh. Its primary use is going to be a dining bar area. Some of the amenities in the project is a deck and a ramp, a turn lane for the mobile food park or mobile food trucks, some seating amenities, as well as that deck area that we're hoping to serve as a stage to provide the life at night that we're looking for in that district. I already introduced him. And he approached the EDC to ask for assistance in funding a 20 by 25 elevated deck with a handicap accessible ramp. The deck, like I said, will be used for that stage area as well as dining. Just to kind of give you an idea of the deck's going to be made out of steel and composite wood. And just to show you why the ramp is on there to comply with ADA, it does have to wrap all the way around the building. So it will start at the front of the building, go around the side, cover the back area of the deck, and then they'll be able to get on the deck. So that's just kind of a visualization of what it looks like now. Again, here is the overview of the mobile food park. And EDC discussion, they voted unanimously to approve $60,000 in financial assistance, provided that Mr. Warder spends $80,000. Some of the discussion in the meeting was that they were concerned that the current exterior facade on the building needed some upgrading as well. So while the proposal for the deck improvement was estimated at $60,000, the EDC wanted to see an additional $20,000 put in to renovate and upgrade that back side of the facade so that the deck would go in and the building would look nice as well. So the motion was for as long as he spends $80,000, the EDC will contribute $40,000. Out of his $80,000, $60,000 has to be to the deck and $20,000 has to go through to the facade improvements. Additionally, some of the the requirements for him to meet the project would be that he can't hire any undocumented workers, which is standard language in all EDC projects, as well as he will have 4 FTEs and 6 PTEs, that's full-time employees and part-time employees, and that is actually for his bar and dine business. That doesn't count the contract labor that will come in. So if we're talking concerts or the food truck workers or anything like that, that's in addition to that 4 and 6 number. And then Russell, if you would like to come up and kind of give an overview of your project in its entirety for the board.
Thank you, ma'am, so much. Mayor, council, I don't know if you guys have any up-to-date questions or anything that you'd like to ask me, but one of the things that we looked at with the food truck park is everybody enjoys good food fare. And I've always found it really sketchy to stop on the side of the road. No matter how good the chef is, it bothers me a little bit. If you can't connect it to a permanent location, you can't enforce our health and safety codes, you can't ensure the safety of the public, and you have no place to tie them back to. And I found that it'd be an excellent opportunity for us to showcase young talent who's in the culinary arts at a low cost of entry for them, and have a location that's set up specifically for that purpose, for them to sell their individual types of meals and wares, and give an expanded use of the property where people could walk to and from it, from the west side all the way to the east side where the Gather is at, down Aviation.
Yes, Mr. Butler.
Mr. Warder, thank you for coming out this evening. You weren't able to make it to the Economic Development Corporation meeting on Thursday. I already know the answer why, but could you tell everybody why you were not able to make it to the EDC meeting on Thursday?
My apologies for not making it to the EDC meeting on Thursday. My daughter was graduating from Texas A&M University, and I needed to go to her graduation. And I do have another question. Michael Casada spoke on your behalf representing your interest. The 20,000 and 20,000 is a change from what you requested be approved. I want to make sure that you're on board with that change to the language and the change of the amount of the grant. Yes, absolutely. Anything that I can do to improve the aesthetics of the building itself as we go to build our business in Universal City, it is greatly appreciated, and I am on board with changing the facade of it to match a more up-to-date, cleaner look.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
A couple of process questions. I wasn't at the EDC meeting, so I'm just curious, looking at the paperwork, that you submitted a grant agreement for you call it the storefront improvement program. In the grant agreement, it says there's a max of 10, but we're being asked to approve 40, and I'm just curious how that gets decided. How
I can handle
that gets.
Yeah, so the EDC has a storefront improvement program, and traditionally that was the application that they used that. We still use that application to capture the information from the property owner and the intended uses. But in this particular case, it is the performance agreement, which is the overall and binding contract. I know that Kristen is working on a separate application for things that are going to happen outside of the EDC. And yeah, we recognize that at one time the EDC, when they do a traditional storefront improvement, that application had just the 2 boxes to check. He didn't actually need to check either one of those.
Okay. And then you mentioned the performance agreement, and you had on the slide as well that there's going to be a requirement for 4 full-time equivalents and 6 part-time employees.
Yes, sir.
I don't see any term in the agreement, so I don't know if there's any reporting that has to be done to show how many employees.
We do it for the first year, and they provide us with their quarterly 941 forms where it lists the number of employees that they have on staff, and we use that in the file to make sure that they're meeting the agreement, the application.
And there is some recapture provisions to where presumably they could pay it back if they didn't meet
That is
the
correct.
performance
Always.
agreement. But how is that determined? I mean, if he's 1 employee short a year from now, how do you determine what would be paid back, or who makes that determination?
Interesting, we've never had anyone not make it, which is why typically when they're giving us their employee level, they go with what their starting level is, and then as their business builds. Normally, if somebody doesn't complete that, then what we do is we present them with an invoice for repayment. The state law is where the clawback comes in, isn't that correct? It's the state economic development law that indicates the clawback and the process and procedures that we go through.
Okay, so am I correct that there's not a term in the agreement? It's just a gentleman's agreement that's going to be a year that he'll check
Usually, yeah,
different
they do.
employees?
The EDC usually dictates it's within 1 year.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Goolsby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I'm excited about it. I've been excited about it for a long time, seeing it on EDC and then seeing it tonight. But then you've still got 3 big air conditioning units on that elevation. That's on the list of things to do, right?
Yes.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the outward appearance, those are going to be hidden by a perforated banner that covers the front of it.
Beautiful.
So that we get a little bit of signage towards the back side, the non-facing side of the property that covers over the beer garden and the seating area for the trucks. It'll face out to aviation, and our intent is, with the little gap between the VFW post and the automotive spot, you have a clear line of sight directly to 78 while you're sitting in traffic waiting for that one light by the base. So, yes, those will definitely be covered up. It'll have a nice garden-type appearance to the outside.
Fantastic, fantastic. And then just to kind of tack on, the other thing that I like is that you have to spend the money before you're given the money.
That's
and
correct.
And you're not buying equipment, you're doing improvements to a building that's in Universal City.
Correct. These are fixed, permanent additions to the building that in the event that the building is transferred or sold, will have to stay with the building itself and remain in the city.
We're not buying a food truck.
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think one of the beautiful opportunities here is that not only will it benefit us citizens in Universal City, our friends across the 78 at Randolph will just have it'll be wonderful for them because it's another variety of food that the airmen can have at the come off base. And the way it operates, they only have a set period of time for lunch, including getting it back across the river, the railroad tracks. but it's a great opportunity for our military as well. Yes, Mr. Neville?
Will the present foundation, do you think, support that steel ring and the deck, excuse me?
The way that the building is currently constructed, it's a pier and beam structure, and this is going to be a deck that goes on the outside and wraps around. It'll be a dual purpose, not only for handicap, for movement of equipment for musical bands and things of that nature. It's been designed by the MEP, the engineer, and it's going to be a freestanding structure that stands next to the building. It's attached, but it supports all of its own weight on steel and concrete piers.
Okay, this item does require a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
By Councilmember Goolsby, second by Councilmember, was it Shelby? Okay. Any further discussion, anyone? All right.
I would just, as Mr. Goolsby said, I'm very excited about this project. It's moving our aviation district plan down. This was one of the center points of discussion for that area too. So it's good to see this happening, and you kind of, and took it from me too, I was kind of hoping those air conditioning vents were going to be covered up, so you just asked my question on that, but I'm looking forward to the changes. So.
Good. Okay. All right then, let me call for the vote then, please, Chris.
Mayor, if I may comment before I call for a vote.
Sure.
To speak to Mr. Vaughan, we will add for within a period of 1 year before the second reading to that resolution, that adjournment.
Thank you.
I think it's been in there in the past and it's just fell off from template to template. So
Okay.
all right, Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville?
Aye.
Councilmember Buck?
My first, aye.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
And Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thanks so much. Okay, that concludes our business for this evening, so it is over to our city manager for her comments.
We're entering into the summer months. There's a lot of children who will be home and maybe some of their parents with them, and they think, oh, there's nothing to do. And I think most every parent has heard that from their child. So with that, I'm going to go over an overview of all of the events we have coming up in Universal City for June, July, and moving into the first few weeks of August. So June 16th, Motown Happy Hour at Olympia, which the happy hours are open to children of all ages. And that's on Thursday, it starts at 5. June 18th is a Splash Fest, which is also open to children of all ages. I've seen some of the bigger children out there enjoying it just as much as the younger children. June 18th, Movies in the Park at UC Park starts at 7 p.m. That is free. Also, we only show family-friendly movies. It is Luca. July 2nd, we have the Armed Forces River Parade for anybody who wants to be downtown. And I'm sure Regina is recruiting heavily for people to be on the float representing the city of Universal City. July 8th, which is Neon Nights Golf Tournament. That is a one-of-a-kind golf tournament where you actually play in the dark for whoever brave soul wants to try that one. July 9th, Movies in the Park again at 7. Ghostbusters Afterlife. July 16th, it is a casino night that is sponsored by the Universal City Police Academy Alumni Association. $40, starts at 6, includes heavy appetizers, because we don't do light appetizers, 2 drink tickets, and casino chips. And so those tickets will be available online. July 21st, we have our Murder Mystery Happy Hour, also at the golf course. It is a murder at the Deadwind Saloon, in case none of you have been there, or if you have been there to South Dakota and been to the Deadwood Saloon, you're more than happy to bring out your famous Old West wear and show up as a gunslinger or whatever else you choose to that night. And then on July 23rd, we have our Family Fun Night also at Olympia Hills. That's at 6 p.m. And that's a night of games, dancing, and food with the family. July 30th, Movies in the Park again, which is Encanto. August 13th, we have our Toga Run, which is also a nighttime event where you put on your helmet and all your glow stuff and you run in the dark on the golf course. That starts at 8 p.m. And then lastly, we have a Roaring 20s happy hour at Olympia Hills, and that's going to be a jazz band and food and drink specials all night long. So those are just some of the events. I ask that you go to the calendar because the library also has some very spectacular events coming up in terms of live performers, which will be working in the morning, and they'll be at the splash pad, and they'll have performers. Besides summer reading, they've got a couple of really cute events coming up where the teddy bears get to spend the night after they've had their good night book read to them. So again, there's no reason to be bored in Universal City. We provide plenty of opportunity for children of all ages to enjoy our community and their community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Regina, you gonna have any help?
I'm not sleeping till August.
Okay.
No, tons of.
Fantastic slate of events coming up. So this evening, let's start off with Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
I want to thank the council members again for trusting me. You helped me as Mayor Pro Tem. The definition of the word oligarchy had me really surprised as a political scientist. I just wish I knew where to park my $350 million yacht. Last Thursday morning, the city manager and myself went to the groundbreaking of the new I-35 project, which is going to include 2 elevated lanes, one north and one south. It's going to start at 410, and the first phase will end right after 3009. It's going to take about $1.5 billion. They think it's going to last 5 years, but when Mr. Turner asked the people that have to do the construction, they said they will be grateful if they get through in 7 years. And it's going to affect us because we're going to have to reconfigure 1604 and 35, and the same at 309 and 35. So we're going to have fun and games for the next 7 years. And thank you.
But it's going to be worth it. Okay. Barry?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'd like to just say congratulations to y'all, all three of y'all. And it was really exciting to see some of the questions that came out of the new council members on day one. My day one, I just sat there like a puppy, just didn't really know what was going on. So great job, y'all. I'm excited about this. I do have a question, and I promised I would ask this of our city. And so Movies in the Park comes on at dark. One of the guys at my office lives right next to it and is asking if you could turn it down a little bit. Other than that, I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see everything y'all got going on. Y'all are amazing. Keep that up. Really excited about what we're doing with the food truck court. Can't wait to see that. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I will echo that. Welcome to all the new faces on the City Council, and welcome back, Mr. Najarian. Look forward to the next year until we see what happens next, and all the fun stuff in between. Ms. Volle, it's been a fantastic 7 years. I really look forward to the meetings and all of the events that we went to together. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your insight, everything that you brought to the meetings, and your perspective. And we will miss you up here greatly. But I look forward to you speaking your mind to who you want to speak to speak it to, and when you want to say it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Barry's got one other comment.
Okay, so I'd like everybody to notice that Glenn is blocking Miss Volle from me. I thought she was gone. I sat here and I looked. I didn't see her on top. I would have said something to her as well. I know. Come on. It was awesome. I enjoyed our last few years together. It was great. It was great to get to know you. You were incredible to sit next to for at least half of the time up here. It was a whole lot of fun up here, and I'll miss. I hope he can read my handwriting as well as you did whenever I'm making fun of anything William says. So, it was great to work with you. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, it was just a joke. It can
Okay, definitely. Anyway, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to thank the City of Universal City for voting me back in for the third term. I don't take this lightly, and I very much appreciate it. I welcome our new council members and look very forward to working with you both, and of course the rest of the city council. Really looking forward to movies in the park. It's always been a fantastic event for my daughter and I to go to and hang out. Since she's getting older now, somehow it's hanging out with Dad is not a real big priority. So I make her, I make her cut out some time for the old man every once in a while. Also looking as part of being in the Citizens Police Academy, looking forward to seeing you all out there for casino night. It's going to be amazing. Dress up, we're going to look nice, have a night out, and bring your money because we got lots of chips, and we're going to have it's going to be a fantastic time. Looking forward to that as well. And just last but definitely not least, Mrs. Volle, the time I spent with you up here professionally and the amount of time that I spent with you as a personal friend is something that will last in my mind forever, and I appreciate the time you've given to this city and will continue to give to the city, and just proud to call you friend. And thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Phil?
I just want to say thank you to everybody who supported me, and thank you to Tom and Beverly for serving. I know I'm going to have some different ideas, and I hope we can all be respectful of each other's opinions. I know we're all trying to do the best we can for the city in our own little way, and hopefully if I'm not respectful, that you'll hold me accountable. That's my goal. Having said that, I don't know the appropriate way to do this, but I know we heard from Mr. Dirks and we heard from Mr. Vinci tonight about the codes. I know you've all heard from me about the codes, and I'd like for the council to consider creating a committee or some kind of advisory board to give us some feedback on the codes of what things might be a little bit onerous on the public, so that we can consider balancing the city's concept, and the city's doing a great job of giving us what they think is important for the safety of the city, and I think we should be trying to, as setting the policy, balancing that between the freedoms of the citizens and their autonomy from the city. So if we can get some feedback from the citizens, if there's anybody who would like to serve on that, I'd like the council to consider creating that committee or advisory board to give us some recommendations.
Okay, good, thanks. Mr. Buck?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I echo the previous comments about Tom and Beverly's service to this community. It will certainly not be forgotten, and I very much look forward to following in their footsteps, not only of Tom and Beverly, but also of past council members as well. I know I have a lot of big shoes to fill, and I will do my best to do so. A couple of items that I'd like to address is that we are in day 3 of National Police Week. So I would like to say a special thanks to our Universal City Police Department and to all police departments around the country for everything they do to keep us safe in our communities. Also, another upcoming event is the Coronado Village Elementary School is celebrating its 50th year of classes with a celebration at Coronado Elementary School on Saturday the 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It is open to the public, and they want you to come out in your best 70s garb. So dust off your bell bottoms and your multicolored glasses and all your love beads. Something that I'd like to start doing on City Council during my comments is to provide a little bit of history of Universal City, sort of to highlight some of the things that have happened over the course of the few short years that this city has been in existence. So on this day, maybe not this day, but at least in this month in history, in 1917, on May 12th, Captain Pat Booker was born. No, I'm sorry, Captain Pat Booker entered the Air Service as an enlisted member, later to become a captain in the Air Force. And also in mid-May of 1965, John Schaefer donated the land to Universal City that is now Red Horse Park. So thank you to Mr. Schaefer for that donation. I also thank the residents of Universal City for the trust and confidence that's been placed in me. I will certainly do my best to be the best representative of your interests that I can be. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good, thank you. Just a couple of quick items, and we're running a little past 8 o'clock. I have the honor of representing the city at the changing command of our Area Education Training Command coming up this Friday. General Webb will be relinquishing command to General Robinson. General Webb's not leaving, he's actually retiring, but he's moving to Seguin. So we have one of our senior officers that's going to stay in our area very much. So we're looking forward to General Robinson coming in. This is Older Americans Month. I mean, I don't fit into that category. And neither does Mr. Neville. But it's really an opportunity for, especially through the Elm Area Council of Governments, to recognize Older American Month, and that so much happens with, especially in our population in University City, where we have quite a few young senior citizens, and it's an opportunity for them, ACOG, to shine. And there was a really great story that just happened where a lady whose husband accidentally passed away. She had a $30,000 debt related to all kinds of things, and she went to ACOG, and through the Elm Area Aging, was able to get that completely taken care of by ACOG. So if you have it, if there's a special need, anybody, look to your Elm Area Council of Governments. They provide an absolutely phenomenal amount of services, and many of them are for people that are aging people. So, and also for military veterans. So if you're looking for something to help from some sense of assistance, financial or others, go to ACOG. Check out their website. It's outstanding. Okay. And I think that's just about it. Thank you. Congratulations to Phil and Stephen. We look forward to working with you on the council. We're going to be going to work real soon, because we start the budget real quickly, probably like next month or July, early July. Right, Kim? Early July, the budget. Their staff's already working.
Yeah, we're working on it. So at the next council meeting, I'll be presenting the entire budget schedule to you. And the unfortunate thing about budget is we always have to start in July, and of course it's always right after the 4th of July. So I'll just give you a little heads up now. I think it is on July 6th when we will actually be having a very long budget meeting cycle at 5 o'clock, just so you can start preparing for that. But I'll give you the full agenda and all the meeting dates on the June 7th council.
Okay. And by the way, you are all invited. This is an open session. So when we have our budget meetings, you certainly are invited to attend as well and absorb what we go through in the entire process. So thank you everyone for coming this evening. I'm glad we were able to say goodbye properly, and welcome to our 2 new council members. And we look forward to working with you all in the future. This meeting is now at 8:07. Adjourned.